So today, I just want to give you some time to exercise your creativity, okay? So that's the idea for the day, to have you exercise your creativity, to remember some stuff that we talked throughout the week, right? So the first thing, I'm sorry for the slides are going to be a little strange words, like on top of other words. Let's remember some stuff we talked about the week. We had on the second day, I think, one talk by Vanessa, the consultant. She talked about communicative approach. It was on Tuesday, right? Well, she talked about the communicative approach. And for the ones who were not present, this is going to be online soon, so you can watch it. But then I brought some important points about the communicative language teaching. So the communicative approach is a teaching approach that highlights the importance of real communication. It aims at developing the learner's competence to communicate in the target language. The 4 skills, reading, listening, writing, and speaking, are many times worked with simultaneously in what is known as integrated skills approach. The teachers act as facilitators in the learning process, and learners are at the center of instruction. So, to communicate efficiently, we have to know how to use well the 4 skills. You have to read well, listen well, write well, and of course, speak well. And it is a fact that we know that most students think that speaking is the hardest part. I'm not saying all of them, but most of them, right? And I want to show you a piece of information that we give the parents when we first have a meeting at a school. We explain to the parents that the process of acquiring a language is a long process. It's not something that happens overnight, and that we have different phases depending on the maturing of the student brain, their knowledge, the type of knowledge they can absorb. So we show this information to the parents. That's why it's in Portuguese, okay? So it's the desenvolvimento progressivo do primeiro ao 5º ano. Nós temos a porcentagem das habilidades em cada aula, tá? Claro que isso é um average, né? Pode melhorar pode ser mais numa aula para outra. But it is important to notice that for the 1st grade and the 2nd grade, we do not have reading and writing, right? We have 70% listening, 30% speaking. Because for many of these students, this is going to be the first time they are exposed to an English class the way we have at Cel Lep or in any English language school. For the 2nd grade, we motivate them into speaking a little bit more. So we have 60% listening and 40% speaking, okay? This is what we show the parents, and this is what you should promote in your classroom, okay? Then, in the 3rd grade, we start having the reading and writing in a more systematized way, but we keep it to a minimum of 20%. Fourth grade, we start demanding a little bit more of reading and writing. So we have 30% listening, 40% speaking, 30% reading and writing. And then the fifth grade, we have 25% listening, 50% speaking, and 25% reading and writing. So for the ones who are teaching Fundamental 1, I would like you guys to think about this when you are planning your classes. This is important information that you should be aware of, okay? So Dani, but I had never heard about it. It means you haven't been reading our guidelines, because it's in our guidelines, okay? It's stated there. So, if you have, pay attention to the speaking percentage. 30% the first grade. Of course, this is the first time they're being exposed to this. If they come from Educação Infantil with the Cel Lep course, they may be able to speak more than just 30%, okay? Second grade, 40% of the time of the class, you should be stimulating your student into speaking. Is this happening? Or are you speaking 40%? Are you speaking 40% of the time? Or is your student speaking 40% of the time? Your speaking, the teacher talking time should be within the 70% and 60% in the place of escuta. You have to add everything. Your speaking time, the audio and video and songs, everything together should be in the percentage of escuta. Okay? And then so you have third grade 40%, fourth grade 40%, and fifth grade 50%. And then you say, oh, but my students, every time that you have something written there, like instructions and dialogues, I ask them to read. This is not speaking. Okay? This is not speaking in the sense that we want. They're just reading. They're not producing authentic language. They're not producing language that comes from them, their mind. Okay? They're just reproducing things. It doesn't count as a speaking task or valuable speaking time. Okay? It doesn't mean you shouldn't do that. Yes, you should do that. But don't think that this is enough. Okay? You should have them speaking using their own knowledge. Guys, if you have any comments from home, or Natalia who's here with us, you can just ask, okay? You can just go on, make comments there on the chat. Tamara can interrupt me. Tamara is taking care of the chat. So if you send her a message, she can interrupt me and let me know someone has a comment, okay? Vanessa, also, if you want to contribute, okay, with something, okay? Because you don't have many people today. There's a space for everyone to talk. I don't want to be lecturing all the time alone. And then we have the Fundamental 2. Look, Fundamental 2, we keep it very stable up to the 9th grade, okay? It's the same percentage. And look, you have 20% escuta, listening, 40% students producing language, 30% reading and writing, okay? So again, what you have to have in mind is the student has to listen only 20% of the time now, because these students, we assume that they have been coming from 5th grade, 4th grade, 3rd, whatever. They have had enough exposure to spoken language, right? So only 20%. Remember that this 20% includes your talking time, audios, videos, everything that is in the material, and you. 40% of the time, students should be producing language. They should be speaking. Quality production, not only answering yes or no. This is not quality production. Okay? So you have to help your students expand whatever they're trying to say. Think about our observação de aula, right? You have there a place says that the students produced sentence level, discourse level, right? So when they're very little, very, very little, they might produce only words like yes, no, please, teacher. When they start in the UK, the Fundamental 1, they should be producing longer sentences. Why? Because we provide them with chunks, right? Just like the chunks of language are, I say, what's your name? My name is Dani. When you teach this to your students, you don't teach the grammar. You don't, this is what, this is the verb to be, what is. No, you teach it as a whole ready sentence, expression. So your students reproduce this, like, what's your name? My name is Dani, right? So you provide your students the chunk of languages necessary for them to communicate. May I go to the bathroom? May I go to the restroom? May I drink water? These things. And then you teach them, do you like pineapple? Yes, I do. Do you need to teach them, oh, this is a short answer, and this is the do, this is the auxiliary for the simple present? No, you don't teach it like this. You just show them that instead of just saying yes, they say, yes, I do. Okay? So students from the first grade, the first year on, they shouldn't be answering with just one word. Oh, Dani, but it's difficult. Yes, it is, but you are resilient. And you will keep trying to have them say that. Mainly through scaffolding, providing them with whatever language they need. Also, recasting, right? If the student says something in Portuguese, you say it in English and have your students repeat, right? What you said in English. What we see a lot when we go into your classes is that, for example, the teacher asks a question. Joãozinho, what did you do on the weekend? Teacher, eu fui jogar futebol. You played soccer? And then Joãozinho goes, uh-huh. But then the teacher doesn't insist and say, okay, Joãozinho, so say, I played soccer, okay? So you have to give this final step and have the student repeat after you. Otherwise, this is not recasting. You just gave him a model. And like, how much did it actually help? You understand? If you don't have the student repeating what you just recasted, you just provided a model. This is not the recasting technique, okay? You have to go to the end of it. All right, so I really want you to keep in mind, I'm gonna focus a little bit here on the Fundamental 2, but I'll also talk about Fundamental 1, because I I want to believe that the Fundamental teachers are making good use of our RTNs, of our guidelines, because they show how you can transform the writing activity into a speaking activity. It is in our RTNs for Fundamental 1, but it's not in our RTNs for Fundamental 2, okay? So, something that happens a lot, now I'm gonna give you an example. I'm gonna give you an example of United Kids 5, page 58, where you have matching and speaking. Can you access it there? Sure, I'll keep talking. Okay.
I can't do two things at the same time.
Okay, all right.
Tiago, can you hear me? Is it okay? Can you hear me? He says, one thing that has helped me through your consulting sessions is that I try to add the verbs and ask them to reproduce the sentences.
I try to add.
I try to add the verbs, and I ask them to reproduce the sentence.
Yeah.
For example, the key point, they point to the TV and say number locks. And then I add, what? Watch number locks. Do you like watching number locks? Do you want to watch it's number blocks. Oh my God.
Number blocks.
Number blocks. I'm misreading this. Then say, I want to watch number blocks.
Excellent. Yes. That's the idea. Very good, Tiago. That's the idea. You will have students repeat, like it can go just as you said, step by step, add the verb, and then you go on doing this little by little scaffolding, giving them the words and have them repeat. If you don't do this, students won't magically just start saying full sentences, okay? This is our job.
Dani, can you repeat the book and the...
Yes. United Kids 5, page 58. It's lesson 1 of unit 3. Okay? You have the first activity, 58, page 58. You have the first activity that is a matching and speaking. Matching and speaking. Look. So, so you have all the illnesses here, the health problems, and you have the children. They're representing those feelings, illnesses like a backache, a stomachache, a toothache, an earache, a headache, a sore throat, right? And then what I'm going to give you an example of what I have seen in the classroom. Okay. So the teacher, it's written matching and speaking. So how the teacher had the teacher's book in her hand, and in the teacher's book is similar to the student's book, and it has the answers, right? And then what did the teacher do? The teacher said, okay, Joãozinho, read for me. So Joãozinho started. Backache, of course he couldn't read everything correctly, so just like a backache, a stomachache, a toothache, and then she was like correcting his pronunciation, and then she called another student. Okay, Mariazinha, and then Mariazinha, backache, a stomachache. Okay, now you're going to connect, okay? So the students did it like this. Okay, and then the teacher, for correction, the teacher showed the book, and then she pointed, but she had the book projected, okay? So she pointed at the first boy here and said, "What's his problem?" And then the children, "A toothache." Okay? And then she pointed to the second one, "What's her problem? What's the matter?" And then the student said, "A headache." In the mind of this teacher, she was doing exactly what was asked. Okay, matching and speaking, right? The students matched and they spoke. Okay, so that was her interpretation of the activity. But when you go to the guideline, in the guideline, in our RTNs, because we call them RTNs, reflective teaching notes, okay? We don't call them guidelines because they are suggestions on how you should work, and also because we have reflecting notes in the end of your lesson to help you prepare for the next class. So in the RTNs, the instructions are very different. It says matching and speaking. They say page 58, black pencils, students practice vocabulary. Ask students to tell you what they have to do in the activity. So the students should look at the activity and predict what they have to do. Confirm that they have to match the words to the images. Give them time to do the task because they have been exposed to this vocabulary previously, okay? Then tell them they will check the answers in pairs. But it's not just looking at each other's book. There's a whole dialogue for them to use when checking the activity, okay? So the teacher has to write a following dialogue frame on the board. Who has a headache? So one student has to ask the other, who has a headache? And then the other student has to answer, the boy who's wearing a blue and white t-shirt. And who has a backache? Sorry. Who has a backache? The boy who's wearing a blue and white t-shirt. And then he asks, and who has a headache? The girl who is wearing a red t-shirt. And so on and so forth, because they will be practicing things that they have already learned, like describing someone's outfit, okay? Besides practicing the vocabulary about illnesses, okay? So, of course, invite students to help you model out the conversation, pair students up and have them work, walk around the room and listen to your students. Finally, check the answers with the whole class, okay? So, my question here on the slide, you can go back to the slide. So the question here on my slide, my presentation is, if I keep following the student's book as my guide in class, a lot of bad things will happen. First, that you will have like, you will shorten the class a lot. Will I meet the required percentage? Look at the difference. That example that I gave you of the class that I watched, the students, they just read what was written there. And the way it is described in the guideline, how much the student had to produce, had to think to answer. The student had to describe the child in the picture, right? We're not going to give them the retrieve this lessons, okay? So what will happen? Will I meet the required percentage of speaking for the level? Remember that quinto ano, 5th grade, is 50% of time they should be speaking. That's a lot. I don't think so if you just follow the book. How long will it take? How long will it take me to finish a lesson? I see some teachers saying, oh, but the book is so short, there's so little to do. No, it is not. You're looking at the wrong place. You shouldn't be looking at the student's book to prepare your class. You have to look at the RTN. So you're probably going to finish these 2 pages in like 15 minutes and your class is over. Okay? Sabotage of your students' time and effort and everything. Is there any comment there?
Yes, Thiago. There is like, whoa, interjection. That makes it way more nuanced and they really speak more. Very interesting. But the others, like when you were showing the book. And now he says, and it's a simple question like, who has I can do that with my first graders.
Exactly. Right? It's not complicated for them. It's not hard for them at all. For 5th graders, it's not. If I just keep following my book, what's in the student's book, how interesting and fun will my class be? For real? Not at all, right? It's just like any other class of math, geography. So it's not going to be different. And we want our English class to be different from the other subjects, right? We want it to be fun. We want our students to look forward to our Cel Lep class, okay? And if I just keep following the book, which skill or skills will my students practice more? What do you think? You can write on the chat. If you just keep following the book, page by page. Any guess? Speaking and listening? No, right? Probably reading and writing. So, what to do then? What should I do? Follow the guidelines or the RTNs provided by Cel Lep to plan your lessons. I can create my own dynamics, speaking tasks, oral activities based on the book content always, and assign the longer written content as homework. Because many doubts and questions are usually connected to the time that you have to teach. And then you say, but if I do everything that is in the RTN, there won't be time to write, to complete the book, to fill in the book. That's why if you do the oral practice in the class, you complete one, like the first one, and let them finish that at home, the written part at home. They will be able to do it fast because they have already done orally. And even if you do it in the classroom, so you do the oral practice in the class, and then you say, okay, so now you write. This is going to be a lot faster, okay? Because they have already done it speaking. They already have solved this in their minds, and now they just have to write. Okay, Dani, I won't have time at all. Okay, so do it orally, do the first one, and tell them to complete at home. Write everything at home. So, okay, I'm going to show you an activity from the decoding. The decoding book, the second one for the 7th grades, okay, 7th graders, page 5, okay, page 5. DC2, DC2, page 5 in the teacher's book. So students here are learning. I'm just gonna talk while you look for it. Don't worry. Ah, more comments. Okay, please. Hmm.
Sometimes I do that in the developing strategies. The harder, longer writing tasks that I mentioned in the talk with Jackson, I assign as homework. Is that okay?
Okay, I'm going to leave Tamara answer this one because it's if for the ones who don't know, the developing strategy session was developed by Tamara, and she did this according to the. She elaborated them according to Cambridge exams to prepare our students to take uh, the Cambridge exams, okay? All of our books, they prepare the students for one day to take the Cambridge exams. And these developing strategies that we have in the UK, they're important for this. And we should use them the way they were envisioned and elaborated, okay? So let Tamara talk about this. I'm sorry. She was not prepared, but I think it's fair because she's the one who did this and idealized this.
Yes. So I don't think there is a problem in assigning the longer and harder writing tasks as homework, as long as you do a follow up, catching up the following class. So you get to see what they produced, they have the chance to share some of the answers. So it's all about the next step. Yes, sometimes you are pressed with time depending on how many classes a week you have with your students. You don't have much time to do in the classroom and monitor them, but you can do the catching up the following class. So you give them the opportunity to share their answers, to correct. They have the chance to share among themselves. I believe this is uh, something that should be considered when you are assigning pieces of writing as homework. Oh, sorry, Paulo, really? They couldn't hear me. I'll repeat then. It was such a beautiful talk. So, Jack, is it okay? Can you hear me now? I can't see you. So if you could like give me a thumbs up in the chat box. Okay, thank you. Thiago, there isn't a problem in assigning pieces of writing as homework as long as the students have the chance in the following classes to share what their production was, to share orally with when there is correction. They can share among themselves before you do the correction with them. So this is what makes the difference. It's not only about the task itself, but what you do with it after. Okay? Is it better? Could you hear me now? I hope so. I could hear the first time. Ah, thank you, Thiago. Thiago said I could hear the first time, but repetition is always good. It's true. Yes, repetition is important. Just before I share the screen, I'll share what Natalia wrote. She says, for longer writing, I like to do one model with them in class so they have a basis to do the homework, which is extremely important and connected to what Tiago said. Yes, you can assign as homework as long as you model during the lesson, during the class. Okay? Good.
Exactly. And this is for all homework, okay? Everything, all any type of homework. If you're like you're assigning, let's just imagine that you are assigning homework from decoding, right? That you have the workbook in the end of the book. Don't just say do page la 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 and la 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 at home. show them what they have to do. Model it out, practice orally a little bit at least, have them write the first one, and then, okay? So this is the best way to assign homework.
And I think that it's very important to explain them what you have to do in the homework. Because, guys, the students nowadays, they don't understand what they have to do. Yes. And sometimes we have some parents that call us and say, oh, I don't know what they have to do, because some parents do the exercises, the homework with the kids. So I have so many parents that call us and say, teacher, please, what my kids have to do. So it's very important that in classroom we say, guys, let me explain you here this exercise. I'm not saying that you have to do the exercise with them, no. Just brief words, you know? Just say, oh, this exercise, I know you have sometimes the model, but it's very important. Explain. Not just saying, oh, here the page. No, they are not like we were, you know, in the past. They are very, very different. And I know that sometimes the teachers don't have patience to do this, but unfortunately, we have to do this, you know. So,
I add something to it. I think that sometimes we take for granted that they know what they have to do,
yes,
right?
exactly.
And this is where the problem is,
Yes,
because they need us to tell them
yes,
exactly what they have to do, sometimes step by step,
yes,
model out, repeat instructions, double check, not
yes,
because otherwise they will get home, parents will try,
yes.
they will ask what you have to do, and they will say, I don't know.
Even teenagers, sometimes, for example, tests is not only homework, we need sometimes to read with them and say, oh, okay, because they are totally different, is what we were talking before, yes. So thank you.
Thank you for your contribution. So I would like to. Can you share? Yeah? Okay, thank you. Okay, okay.
We have comments.
Yeah, great.
Tiago says, I usually send the instructions as a message to the parents, but I'll get more used to modeling class before assigning the homework too. That's nice, Tiago. Thanks for sharing. Cassia says, I like the idea of working the context, bringing them to the topic before opening the book. For example, do you live in a house? What time do you wake up? Do I think you have breakfast, what time, etc.
Perfect. Yes.
Natalia raised her hand. Open your mic, Natalia.
I
Share with us.
I was thinking that even when we explain, it's hard to send homework because explaining, checking if they understood, even if you do all that, sometimes they get home and they say that they don't know what to do, and the parents say that they don't speak English, and then we get the homework blank the next week, and then sometimes it's hard to handle that part because I don't know if we send step by step as in the yeah, I forgot the word. We send home, we send the parents the explanation of what to do. Do we send it in Portuguese? But then they're going to explain to the kids in Portuguese. It can be tricky.
Yeah, it's true. I think it depends on the age of the student, right? If it's something for our educação infantil, there's no way. You have to send the explanation in Portuguese to the parents so that they can help. So in my opinion, this is like my opinion, and this is what we usually, let's see, we counsel the teachers to do, is the first one. Doing, so you have a one activity with five exercises. So you do the first one, so you can take home and do the other four. If you notice that the difficulty is too high, don't assign it as homework, you know? So when you do the first one with them, with the students, you will notice if the the task is too difficult for them to do by themselves. So you don't assign this as homework. Finish this in class, even if you have to finish this the next day, okay? But usually when you do the first one and they take home to finish, this is going to be a lot easier, mainly if you practiced orally first, okay? So this moment of assigning lesson, where we as teachers, we always have to have a plan B. This moment of assigning homework is a moment that you have to use to notice how hard it is for the students to do that homework. And if you feel, okay, they will have trouble doing this at home, step back and assign another activity, an easier activity. So this is what I have to say. Okay, Tamara?
Tiago reminded of something that we said this week, and then he says, as Vanessa said Tuesday, Tiago. A criança contextualizada não quer guerra com ninguém.
That's great.
Vanessa is here and she's doing like,
Yeah. Yes, it's true. So just always remember the planning of your lesson shouldn't be written on stone, you know. You can change it at any time. You have to have this feeling about your students. Look at their faces. Look how they are behaving about that moment. Does it seem too hard for them? Forget about it. Finish in class, next class, and assign something easier. Okay? So, any more comments? Can we? Okay, so I want to show you an example of an activity for decoding. Okay, so decoding is an older book that we have, but we really like it because the results are awesome. Okay, but our guidelines for decoding, they're not very detailed. Not as much as the UK series and the Educação Infantil series and now the Ensino Médio series. So our Fundamental 2 is the guideline that doesn't have so many details and a lot is left for your imagination, guys, which is awesome too for the teachers who like to be creative and exercise their creativity. So we have here on page 5, uploading, right? So that are mainstream teachers here, right? Cel Lep teachers. Okay. So for the ones who are not, educational solutions teachers, I'm going to briefly explain to you that our book for Fundamental 2, I have this book that is for the 7th grade, okay? And it follows the AAA method system, I don't know. So we have loading. That is the first part of the lesson where you work with awareness, exposure, noticing the language, and understanding the new topic, just like VP, right? Just like Vantage Point, the essentials. Then you have the second part that is the uploading, is the one that you're seeing there on your screen. The uploading part is the appropriation part, okay? On VP, I don't know, it's not your turn, I forgot the name of the sessions for VP, but it's the part that you're going to work with appropriation, interacting, scaffolding, controlled practice, integrating the new knowledge into existing knowledge, is this part, okay? So in the uploading part, the most activities, most exercises are okay, and when you visit the guidelines, it doesn't say much. I'm going to read what the guideline says. so you can understand what I'm saying. The guideline says, it's in Portuguese, okay? It says, instrua os alunos a ligar as horas aos relógios digitais correspondentes, de acordo com o modelo. Peça aos alunos que observem o quadro Study This e explique que a hora 12 pode ser falada de 3 maneiras diferentes, sendo que a forma 12 o'clock pode ser utilizada independentemente de estarmos nos referindo ao dia ou à noite. As outras 2 formas são específicas. Noon, apenas para o meio-dia, e midnight, para a meia-noite. Convide alguns alunos para fazer a correção na lousa. So, as I said, this book is a little bit old, right? And nowadays we have been talking a lot about using interaction during the appropriation moment. They should be speaking as well, okay? So in the guidelines, we don't have this as a speaking moment, right? So now we look at the slide again. Take a last look at the, if you want to, I don't know, screen, take a print screen of this for the ones who don't have the book. You can take a picture, this one. Yeah, okay. So, because we're going to change to the slide, okay? So guys at home, print this screen that you can see the book. And now we're gonna go back to the slide. And I want you to think about this, taking into consideration this activity, what the guideline says, but you want to transform this into a speaking activity. So what should I take into consideration before changing anything in the book, right? So before I transform this into a speaking activity, what should I take into consideration before changing anything? So I should take into consideration the communicative objective of my lesson. It can be of the unit, it can be of this specific lesson. The tools, what are the tools? The grammar, the vocabulary being used throughout the lesson. So what are the assumptions, what my students already know that they will use here? And the objective of the written task that is going to be worked on. This one, they're going to see the chunk. It's 9 o'clock, it's 9:05, it's 9:15, it's 9:20, okay? So how do I transform this into something more for the speaking practice, change the dynamics? I don't want my students all sitting down and just connecting and finish this activity in like 2 minutes. I want them to, you know, have fun. I want them to stand up. So what can I do? Let me change okay. So, will I need any extra material to change this activity, to have my students standing up, moving, or talk to his classmate on his side? Will I use paper, scissors, markers, prepared slips of paper? I prepared them beforehand. How long will the speaking activity take? And will the students have time to do it written later in the classroom, or will it be homework? Transforming this activity into a speaking task. Will I have time to do it written later? In this case, it's just connecting, right? Probably you would have time. Okay? Do you have questions there? Yes.
Comments. Mariana said, sort of Chinese whispers. Patti Lisboa, first asking students if they have camping anytime. Cassia, create some flashcards for the students. They choose one and ask friend, what time is it? Natalia, I don't use this book, but when I have a class that involves telling the time, I like to use real clocks. I have two big broken ones that they use to put the time.
Awesome. Nice. So that's what I would like you guys to do now. Time to practice and exchange ideas. So we're gonna, how do you say? Project. We're gonna show you a random activity of a random book. It doesn't matter if you don't work with the book. It doesn't matter if you had never seen the book before. No problem. We're gonna show you. You're gonna be in groups, okay? Tamara is going to divide you into breakout rooms, but first we're gonna show you the activity, okay? And then you are going to the breakout rooms and you are going to do this, exchange ideas. How could you transform this activity into something more active, the book, having them speak, okay? Remember that the first purpose is having them speak, okay? How are you going to do this, all right? So let me just, I'll need just a moment here to find the activities, okay? Just a second. Decoding 3, it's for our 8th graders, okay? So it's decoding 3. Page 3, it's an exercise that they have to use prepositions, okay? So print the screen because you're going to the breakout room. You're going to share ideas, what you would do. Try to come up with as many ideas as you can, okay? Not just one. And then, oh, Natalia is alone here. Come on, guys. Next time you come here because we have prizes, we have snacks. Today, no, I'm going to show them so they will regret not coming here today. Get me one of those, please, Vanessa. The bag, yes. You are going to regret not being here today. Look at this. The first one here, no, this one here, here. Yes, this one. Yes. Guys, look at this. Oh. Ah. Only the ones who are present here are going to get this beautiful Cel Lep bag. So you can go do your groceries like this, very stylish. Ah, come on.
Tiago regrets not being here, and Luis says, I'm sad now.
Oh. Also, we have, during our breaks, we have a riddle time. And the ones who get the riddle right get stationery stuff like beautiful pencils, pens, cute erasers, and things like that. So please, next time, come here with us. Share your time with us. It's a lot of fun. Okay? So now, guys, have you already printed the screen? Now you're going to the breakout rooms to work together and come up with as many ideas as you can, okay? When you come back, you're gonna share with us, all right? Okay, just wait for Tamara to separate you into breakout rooms. Is everybody back? Yeah? Okay, welcome back, guys. So, how was it? Very productive. Now I'm looking at you here. I can see you now. Was it very productive? Did you talk a lot? Did you exchange ideas? Yeah? Okay. All right, so I would like you guys to share with us what kinds of activities you thought about. Remember that the more you share, the better for everyone, because then everybody can have a new idea, all right, to work on. Who would like to saved by the bell? Okay, so who would like to share? You can open your mics, you can write on the chat the kinds of activities you thought about, okay? Come on, Thiago, share with us. Okay.
Go ahead, Thiago, open your mic.
We were in a group, Casa, Paulo, and I, and Lara, and Paulo gave a very nice idea of identifying the characters first. So Casa mentioned that some of the people on the drawing had names, and on exercise 3, they have assignments, right? So first we would, I gave the idea, and Paulo gave the idea too, of giving them names and then describing what they are doing. So for example, who is Joãozinho, as you mentioned? Oh, Joãozinho is wearing a blue t-shirt, and then this is already starts a conversation. And then we we would separate in 3 speaking points. First, identifying the people, then trying to determine what the people are doing using the preposition. So, for example, where is Joãozinho? Oh, he is in front of the drugstore, for example. And the last part would be asking about the places themselves. So is the bakery across from the bank, or is the bank is the bank on the corner? And by then, Paulo also gave the idea of role playing, like because there are 2 girls with a map, and then the students could try to create a dialogue in which they would try to act like these girls, they're lost, and then they need to find a way of traveling through the city, of roaming around the city, right? And I had an idea also of, it was right now that I had this idea actually, but then I lost my track of thinking. Then I will type on the chat. But those are the ideas we came up with.
Awesome. Very nice. Who else would like? There's something in the chat, right?
Yes, Mariana says, drawing a city on the board, analyze background knowledge and elicit new words from old ones. Pet shop.
All right. And how would you have the students interact with this idea? Is like the idea for exposing for the her idea is the idea for the input, right? To start the
Oh, hi. Yes, that was my comment. I can explain a little bit better. I was just commenting kind of short on the chat. But that's just a beginning, right? So let's suppose I draw the map. I get the vocabulary there of the bakery, bank, etc. And then I can get students to, for example, draw other things in that city. So I tell Joãozinho, draw a dog next to the pet shop. And then Joãozinho goes to the board and draw. And then I can give them other objects, and they can also tell other students to go draw that. So they can interact either with me, or I can also change the dynamic so they tell other students what to draw on the board, and they can also take turns doing that.
right. Thanks for sharing. Anything else?
Can I?
Of course.
Sorry, I don't know if you can hear me well because my microphone is very bad.
Can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. I believe the good way to make them talk is asking, for example, tell me guys, before you have your breakfast, you need to buy some bread, and where do you go when you need to buy some bread? And start like this. Okay, but you need first a little money. Where do you go when you need money? And this is the way that I think is better.
Okay, thank you very much for your contribution. Natalia, who is here, she's going to share with us what she thought for activity number 4 on page 3, okay? It's not number 3. It's number 4, page 3.
Hello, guys. So, based on exercise 4, first of all, we need to explain the students that we've learned the prepositions before, okay? And I would share the students into groups. And after that, I would share them. I close the books. I asked them to close the books. And I would share them maps, the same maps of the book, you know. And I would share them the exercise number 4. Of course, they don't know the exercise. And I would ask them to talk about, for example, where is the ta-da-da? They would talk about them. So they have to do the exercise orally, not written. And after they had talked about, and then they would write. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I would engage them to talk. So where is I'm not sure about it now, but for example, where is the pet shop? Where is the bakery? So for example, where is the restaurant? Oh, so the restaurant is on ta-da-da. So the teacher needs, of course, to supervise, you know, to monitoring them and do, I don't know, depends on the class, but sometimes 2, 3, or 4 groups. And we need to stay with the students to make them to introduce the conversation, of course. But, and then to do that, you need to write on the board the chunks, of course. So guys, where is the ta-da-da? Oh, it's ta-da-da. Do you understand? And just to keep them in mind, oh, the prepositions, guys, remember, between, on, yes, next to, behind. And this make them to do the exercise easier, and they like because they don't need to write on the book, you know? So it's another way to make them in a conversation and make them not to do the exercise on the book. I don't know if it's...
Thank you very much, Natalia, for your insight. Okay, let's listen to Thiago.
Sorry, I got lost with the controls here. Yeah, let me lower my hand. So I remember the idea I had. It's a little demanding, maybe, but I had the idea of having these maps printed and then cut the pieces and reorganize, and then I would separate the groups in like uh, group A, group B. And then group A received one map, the other one receives another, and then they compare. So, for example, my drugstore is across from the bank. What about yours? And then they would say, oh, mine is on the corner. And then like they could answer the prepositions, they would do the exercise, but they would do so orally and comparing their answers. And then they could correct one another, changing the exercise later, like the reading part, and then they can check that and see if it's right. I don't know if I made myself clear.
Yeah, I think it's similar to the ones we have on VP, right? Each each person in our mainstream courses, we have this on our books. So there is a map A, a map, and students sit in pairs and they have to compare their maps, just like you said. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, on my map, there is a drugstore behind the theater. So they go on exchanging this information and they circle and I don't know, they do some stuff on their maps, okay?
Mhm.
Thank you, Tiago. I would like to share with you one idea that I have seen. It was not my idea, it is a class that I watched. For this activity on page 3, number 4, if you have the print there, you see it says, look at the picture, complete the sentences with on, between, next to, across from, in front of, or on the corner of. So this teacher, what she did, she got some sheets of paper, she attached like 3 sheets of paper like this, like sulfite A4, and she drew like a building, and it was written like drugstore, market, and then she put this around the neck like with a cord, and all this their own building. They were buildings, and then she would organize them. They would stand up. They would receive one building. They would become one building. And she would organize them, everybody standing up. She would organize them, 3 or 4 of them, call one student to the front and tell them, and ask them, where is the drugstore? And the student would have to describe. The drugstore is between the restaurant and the school. And it was a lot of fun because the students liked to be the buildings, and they have to move around and organize themselves. And I'm going to be behind this one. I'm going to be on the side of this one. So that was very creative. Students had a lot of fun. They did exactly what is asked here on activity number 4. And it was very motivational and all for them later to fill in. Activity number 4 was really quick, okay? So guys, we're pressing for time. I would like to know if anyone has any question, would like to make any comment before we finish. Everything okay? I hope it has given you some ideas or understand the difference between actually speaking or just repeating things or reading things, and how much speaking time the students have to have in class. Okay?
Tiago has a comment. He says, amazing, LOL. Is this TPR?
Yes,
And
the building, yeah.
Mariana answered him, I would consider.
Yeah.
And then to be the building.
Yes.
Amazing.
Amazing, yes. That's awesome. It was a long time ago, and I always remember about this class. Can you imagine the students? If I can remember, the students probably remember that too. It was a lot of fun, okay? Guys, so thank you very much for being here, okay? In just a few minutes, we're gonna have Norton here with us, okay? So stay online. Thank you very much for being here, all right? See ya.